years have passed. Mike has returned from the quantum hyper war. Recalled after sustaining oral damage at the hands of a cyber Babylonian, he returns to the flesh dimension. Featuring Charles Rothstein.
Hello, and welcome back to Talking About Today. I'm your host, Mike on the mic, and today we have a very important episode. It's Ghoul Watch, people. Ghouls. Are they real? Are they amongst us? I believe the answer is yes. I have a couple favorite ghouls, actually, as a matter of fact, and I could think of no one better to help me get updates on them after my brief and traumatic, well, not so brief, but rather traumatic sleep. Mr. Charles Rothstein, reporting live from the trenches in Palestine. Charles, are you there?
Yes, sir. I do have to say I've taken a brief reprise from the trenches. I'm currently residing in the Appalachian Mountain region of North Carolina.
Charles, back at home after a rough tour of duty, something that I'm sure we will be able to get into. But Charles, as you may imagine, in the space of time that I have been away from the world, things have gone a certain kind of down, and because of that, I need to speed run my reacquaintance with my favorite ghouls so that I can start learning about the lesser things, like the state of health or whatever. So I have on me a 15-minute timer, and I'm going to allocate 15 minutes of time to each ghoul topic.
Very efficient, I like it.
Perfect. So the timer has started. All right, ghoul number one.
Yeah, all right, ghoul number one. Hit me with your first question. Who are you wondering about?
Charles, so here's the dealio, okay? Here's the deal. The president won re-election.
That he did.
So, what happened? Because I heard he got shot.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't the first time. He was shot once, a couple attempts on his life. What happened is the Democratic Party decided not to campaign and pick a real candidate, and they sort of just shoehorned this, cop defense attorney into the presidency. At least that was what they were trying to do. They've got a country that is, rife with hate for police officers. We're all ACAB around this household. Yet they tried to run a prosecutor with a terrible fucking track record. And also probably one of the most hated VPs ever as a candidate, and it backfired.
I saw some of that. I found an archived Twitch stream. I'll tell you what, though. That white guy that they got to be the cops vice president pick, he could play some Madden. He's not good, but he can, in fact, play Madden, which is more than I can say.
Well, we all know playing Madden's a very presidential skill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that Newports is how Barack Obama got elected.
Newports?
Yeah, well, dude, Barack Obama was a prolific smoker. Not Newports, though.
See, I knew Obama was cool.
Yeah. Obama was the first, black president, but Trump was also, the first black president. But now we got to have the second black president, though.
Yeah. I'm proud of this country. It's very progressive of them.
Absolutely. And I saw a very funny meme where it was Trump back-to-back blocking women being president, and I feel like there's something to be acknowledged there. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the augurs are correct, and by the augurs I mean the memes, then it's not impossible that we'll see a 2028 AOC run.
I really disagree with that. Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris weren't elected because of some kind of sexism, or we don't believe we can have a female president. We got damn close with Hillary, right? Hillary and Trump, that election was a very tight race. That didn't come into favor of her being a woman. With this election, Kamala just lost because she was a bad candidate, and the votes demonstrate that.
I've heard it said that video games lost the ballot box this past Game Awards. And this might sound like a non sequitur, but bear with me here, right? As somebody who appreciates the ghouls and keeps active track of them when they're not in a coma, my girl Hillary set a wave off, though. You know what I mean? Think about the impact of the Clinton run. 2015 and onward, you remember, Charles, in 2015 when those college kids were bitching about the Halloween costumes and shit? You know what I mean? The beginning of that wave of oh, I'm gonna complain about shit and it's gonna matter, right? That was all ghoul inspiration. Mm-hmm. That was the Clinton campaign. That's how they finessed Bernie out of his election. That was the way that they started that pseudo-cultural revolution that has been effectively dismantled and rejected by mainstream society with this last ghoul pick. But I think that we regressed. Does that make sense?
It does if you believe that was like, an intentional political move to start some kind of motive like that. I understand you not being, you being a Gentile, you're not connected like I am. You don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. But sure, that would be the mainstream view of it, I say.
Well, one day, maybe with enough hard work and prayer, I too will become one of God's chosen people. But in the interim period, I have had to make do with my limited scope and view of the world. We still have some time on the clock, but if you are okay with pivoting to ghoul discussions more domestic, how about your favorite ghoul in chief? How about Benjamin? How's BB doing?
Who the fuck you talking about?
Fair enough. Charles, I've got some time here, and I'd like to allocate a bit of my re-education to your time. Would you mind telling us how it was in the trenches? I know you're on leave right now. I know you're back at home, but would you mind giving us some touching but possibly chilling remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't necessarily working in a combat unit. Netanyahu had allocated some funds to a boots on the ground engineering corps of the IDF. And I was really working with them on a secretive project. They weren't really giving me much information. It was working out how to create a building facade, a functional corporate office facade for a base of operations like an FOB and possibly some missile launching equipment. I was designing facades of hospitals, daycares, elementary schools, and I guess either the IDF was planning on disguising military bases as a hospital. Yeah, I can only assume that was their plans for this project. I can't imagine them trying to frame Hamas for doing something similar. That would be absurd.
So when you say facade, do you mean that it was just the exterior was like slightly painted over, or do you mean that you built a hospital and made a functioning hospital under false pretense?
Correct. You construct a missile launching pad and a forward operating base and construct a working functional hospital around it.
Okay, but what I'm hearing is that you were building hospitals and schools, so I don't see what the problem is.
Exactly. No. I was doing nothing wrong.
Okay. Well, I've just, as somebody who is linked in on the ghoul side of things, I understand that much, right? I get it. You've got to build something to break something to make something. But the other Gentiles, sometimes they don't really get it, unfortunately. They don't really understand the process by which it goes. But no, I got you.
People are too quick to push blame to Israel. We were building these hospitals in the Gaza Strip for the Palestinians.
No, of course. I mean, because, what's the alternative? They don't have care over there, what are they going to...
And they don't have missile launching pads either.
No, absolutely not. And they also don't have... they don't have facilities to feed and clothe themselves, let alone arm themselves. So, I mean, we've got to provide that, too. And by we, I mean you.
Of course. Yep, I was just doing my job. I was just following orders.
Yeah, no, of
And
course.
if you fault me for just following orders, I don't know what to tell you.
It's unjust, honestly. How can you fault somebody for following a lawful order?
Another show.
Another show, indeed. All right, Charles. Well, I'm not going to lie to you. That is some real stuff. That is some real heartwarming. I'm glad that you've been doing good work for the community over there. They really need it in that region. It's a tough time over there, especially with what just recently happened.
God calls us to serve, my friend. He calls us all to serve.
That he does. Apparently not Bashar, though. Apparently Allah did not call Bashar to serve. Do you know he didn't tell, he didn't tell the army or his brother that he was fucking off before he did?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he was in Moscow to meet with Vlad before all this happened, right? And Big VP was like, yo, homie, you sure you want to head back there? And he was like, I gotta go, but can my wife and kids stick around? And Big VP was like, dog, of course. His family and child never they never left Russia. They stayed there the whole time.
That's nuts.
Yeah, well...
Good for him, though,
So the way I look at it is the revisionist history is already beginning with, the Jabhat al-Nusra guys who are now the HJT. I don't know what the acronym is, but basically they were a Al-Qaeda affiliated 5 years ago. Now they're not, and they're being... Depending on which rag you read, the Times or whatever was the brave freedom fighters, You know, very 80s reminiscent kind of messaging. And the other side of it is that this is just us doing to Syria what we did to Gaddafi, right? Obviously, it's multifaceted. Obviously, Bashar al-Assad was a dictator. I get that, right? Like, he was not a good person. I don't think anybody's going to sit here and be like, he was a good person. But there are a lot of people that are worse than him operating in that area, in that part of the world. Time and again, we've seen that area requires a very strong hand to maintain, and not an absent hand, right? Like, you got to be in there. I don't know. I'm not sure it's...
There's nothing particularly wrong about being a dictator.
No, especially not when you have a people who don't really know any other way of being, unfortunately. Like...
Yeah, like the South Koreans.
That guy that lost his nods in South Korea, that was the first thing I saw when I woke up, by the way, right? Was that the South Koreans had booged for about an hour and then had failed to stop a parliamentary vote. So, crackpot theory, by the way, Charles, can I tell you? Crackpot theory? Okay. It was all a bit. Obviously, this is not what happened, right? But the way I look at it, the Korean Special Forces were deployed to the parliamentary building. The Korean Special Forces were deployed with, like, training rifles and, like, non-live ammunition. So either this was a fumble of a coup, which is the Occam's razor answer, but the fun answer is that it was a training exercise, right? What happens if they actually get internally invaded, have demonstrable proof of it, and need to install martial law? What would happen, right? It was like a test run. So the Koreans drilled like they would have to break into the parliament. They made a concerted effort of, but not really too much of an effort of, like, stopping the parliamentarians from getting in. When they couldn't stop them from getting in, they were like, the head of the parliament told them to, like, take a breather and, like, fuck off for a little bit, and they did it, which is not very martial law.
Well, I think you're missing the key point of this issue here, and it's that the fontanelle of the Korean is underdeveloped, and this causes them to lack constitution. That could have been a full coup, but the Korean is born without a spine.
Did you also pick up some Yakubian genealogy over there in the trenches? Is that where this is coming from?
No, I've mostly been discussing this with the descendants of Georgia plantation owners.
Oh yes. Goodness, I'm sure that there are plenty of foreign regiments in the IDF. Not foreign per se, but you know what I mean, like extra national soldiers.
Oh, definitely. I guess I should add that would be Georgia the country, Soviet Georgia, not the state of Georgia.
Yes. Well, I mean, plantation owners all the same, right? What is?
Hey, they all grow beets.
They grow beets in southern Georgia?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like sugar beets?
Regular beets.
Regular beets. Damn, that's tough.
The headphones produced by Dr. Dre.
I'm going to preempt this timer and move to the next ghoul topic. Okay? Okay. So, the next ghoul topic. Charles, have you heard of a man by the name of Luigi?
Oh, yes, the American hero, Luigi Maggione.
I meant the brother of Mario.
See, that tripped me up the first time.
I don't know who Luigi Mansion is. I'm talking about Luigi Mario, the brother of Mario. Super Mario Brothers Brothership released this year. It wasn't really good. It was another lackluster entry in the RPG Super Mario games. But no, who's this Luigi Mansion guy?
Oh, Luigi's Mansion. He is a downright American hero, and he will go into the books as being one of our founding fathers after the Revolution.
That's kind of based. What did he do?
Well, he had a series of life-altering surgeries denied by his insurance company.
Okay.
So one faithful night, he sat by his fireplace and constructed a weapon capable of killing a demon. And that particular demon was the CEO of United Healthcare in New York. He traveled up there all the way from Altoona, Pennsylvania, and hid in the shadows during the darkness of the early morning sun, and assassinated the CEO while he was walking into a bean counter convention at a Hilton Hotel.
Okay. Was he dressed like in a cool way? Was he like a vindictive entity? Was he was he wearing some kind of like samurai fucking like witness me paper or some shit?
No, he was just wearing a regular old military surplus looking jacket, uh, really dressed like me or you, one of the people, which he is. No theatrics about it. He knew what he was doing. He was well prepared, well trained, a purpose-built firearm, and a perfect plan.
So I mean, that's all. I mean, did he have? Surely he had like a manifesto or something, and it doesn't sound like he got away with it.
Well, that's open for debate. They have apprehended a suspect, but the jury's still out if it was him who did it. There's a lot of parts of the story that's not adding up. Since you haven't been around, I'll just ask you about this. So, the evidence we know so far, the gentleman assassinated the CEO. He fled on a rental city bike, one of those little bike share situations they have in New York. He rode it to Central Park, dumped his backpack, which contained various items, including like $15,000 in Monopoly money.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then he fled back to Pennsylvania. In Altoona, Pennsylvania, 5 days later, a call to 911 comes in from a McDonald's employee who states that the United Healthcare shooter is sitting in their dining room. Luigi is apprehended wearing the exact clothing he was wearing at the shooting, with a different backpack containing the murder weapon, a letter confessing to the crime, a manifesto, several $1,000s in foreign currency, a passport, a fake passport, and fake IDs. Anything weird just pop in your head about that situation? Something doesn't quite seem right.
Yeah, it's strange for such a professional hit to be taken down in such a sloppy way. You could argue that maybe a homeboy was so off the top, right? The immediate devil's advocates move that I see is like, well, you kind of have to be off your shit to think of and conduct an attack like this, right? Psychologically speaking. So it's not beyond the pale that there's some kind of like strange pseudo like I want to get caught drive attached to the action, right? Maybe some sort of like the closest you can get to martyrdom without dying is like going to jail for a thing that you believe in, right? So maybe there's some kind of that going on. That's assuming that the kid they caught is the kid that did it, or the guy rather. He's not. I don't know how old he is, but that's assuming the guy they caught is the guy that did it. Now it is super fucking weird, right? To get pinched 5 days after the fact in a McDonald's of all fucking places, but wearing the same stuff, like you wouldn't change. Why would you have a strange amount of money on you and like...
He was of age, so there was no reason to have a fake.
There's always a reason to have a fake ID, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is it's weird, for sure. It's definitely weird. Do I think we'll get answers? Well, yeah. We don't know anything about, like... Okay, here's the better question. Surely we know everything about the guy that shot Trump, right?
Yeah. We know pretty much all there is to know.
Are you saying that, or are you just...
There's no reason to... well, I'll say there's a couple reasons to think maybe not, but it wasn't a high-profile enough assassination for it to really be a setup, I don't think.
Okay. Do you think he did it?
If it was a JFK-style situation where there was a patsy involved, Trump would be dead.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah, it tends to be that when the three letters want it done, it gets done, right? I'm not... Okay, so here's my question then. If this isn't the guy, then who is it and why?
Well, I think it's either like a Patsy Fall Guy situation.
Sure.
You know, I think it's just that. I think it's a Patsy Fall Guy situation. I think the government had no possible way to catch the gentleman who actually did the hit. I won't say hit, the assassination. And I think... The government realized letting a person like that roam the streets free and succeed is probably the scariest thing that they could imagine. You know, their citizens understanding that they have the power to do these things and can potentially do so without consequences. The reason why I say that is because we know the shooter on video was only wearing one backpack. Yet we have NYPD evidence that he dumped that backpack in Central Park. They found it. So when he's in McDonald's in Altoona 5 days later, he's wearing a different backpack which contains the murder weapon and all those things I listed previously. So was it that he went back home, grabbed a different backpack, but did not change his clothes? Seems a little strange. So that either tells me he's a construct, he is a person built to take the fall for this crime, or he intended to get caught.
It could. I mean,
One or
he
the
could
other.
also just have had a second backpack off site, right? We have a beginning and an end, but we have a lot of missing middle to this story.
This is true. But it doesn't really make sense to walk around in your hometown, nearby your home, with all the evidence used to convict you. I mean, you're walking around with an open and shut case when you don't have to. He could have just went home and went back to life as usual and probably would have never been caught.
I don't know. It's a thinker. It's a thinker.
I mean, hell, he was only ID'd pretty much because of the clothes. I mean, sure, his portions of his face were visible, right? But you see 1,000 faces every day. There's no way someone's going to recognize a person by a portion of their face without also having the clothing or other indicators to go along with it.
What part of New York? What part of New York was this in? Because obviously, if it's like a bean counter convention, it sounds like it would be in a very seems like it would be a populated area. No,
I think it was in Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken. Let me take a look.
aren't there supposed to be like cops everywhere down there? They got bro on CCTV. It sounds like. So why didn't New York? Unless it's changed in the 2 years I've been gone, and I don't think it has. NYPD is like a super well-funded apparatus. At least it's supposed to be. Certainly funded. I don't know about well, but like there's a lot of money that goes into that org. And it should seem that with all the money they have and all the surveillance cameras that there are in New York, right, they would have found bro. But then again, there is the folk angle to it, right? Like, I don't know shit about this dude, but the fact that he gunned down a healthcare CEO is the kind of absurdly funny, but also equally like this is where we are statement that I find truly humorous. The perfect blend of tragedy and comedy. I'm amazed it took this long. Genuinely, there's a clip. I forget where it's from. There's a clip though. And it's some political event, some conservative political event, because of course it was. And it's this guy asking somebody who's running for some or other, he's like, when do we get to use the guns? And then everybody laughs, and he's just standing there. He's like, no, I'm being serious. Like, when do we get to use the guns? And it's one of those things, you know?
Oh yeah, this is just the start. I'm sure this will be. I think if the media does not do its job of dividing the American people on this subject, this will be the opening notes of a very long, lengthy chapter in American history books going forward.
I've heard it referred to as the American Years of Lead in some cringe influencer circles since I've been back, and I hate it, but I agree with it. It's a pretty accurate term, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I mean it's well spoken, kind of cringy, but whatever.
So I'll tell you what, though, it opens the door for some Mishima-esque nationalism violence, and I'm here for that.
Yeah. I mean,
so
at least
can't
us here at the
refuse.
synagogue, we've been working hard to make you believe that Luigi Maggione was a Nazi, or that he was a hardcore Republican, or that he was a hardcore communist, because we want you to distrust him and to discredit his cause based on his personal beliefs and characteristics. We want you to think differently about this man, and we want you to fight each other when talking about him, instead of coming together and looking at the underlying cause and why he did this. That's our job.
Well, Charles, I'm media literate. I've been to media literacy training, so I know that the medium is the message and the message is the medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it was a very well done. I think it was a very well made choice to select the man with the feature set that you did.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, we've been putting little extra facts that are demonstrably false or completely unproven. And, I've been whispering in the ears of news sources like AP News, the New York Post, and CNN recently to include these false facts in their articles, just to add a little bit of, discomfort when reading. And if you check out any of the coverage by those three news agencies, you will see facts that I wrote that are demonstrably false about this shooting.
Oh, really? Like what?
Mostly about where Luigi comes from. So it talks about his family history. I believe it was the New York Post where we inserted a few sentences about his family being rich off the healthcare system because they own multiple hospitals. And that is just not true. It's a little bit of bending of the truth. I believe his family was responsible for a nursing home at some point. What the article fails to mention is that a nursing home is a lot different than multiple hospitals, and also fails to mention that Luigi's been estranged from his family for quite some time.
How estranged? like rich kids who are like still on the dollar but not talking to daddy estranged, or like my belief set is different than yours, I wish nothing to do with you estranged?
We don't know. It appears to be somewhere in the middle. He was quite successful on his own. Graduated college, got a great job, white collar, high paying, low six-figure job. So it doesn't seem like he needed to be on the parents' dole or anything like that.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it's kind of I feel like just knowing that now, having just found this out, that he's kind of like a rich kid, right? Not that there's anything wrong with it, but knowing that and knowing how people feel about the rich right now, I feel like that's going to be super easy to co-opt against him, despite the fact that, like, well, first of all, I feel like you have to be making six figures to have the fucking free time to plan some shit like this, right? Like, I don't know about you, but if I wanted to, I couldn't. God knows it.
Yeah.
So there's that. But also, like, you have to be intelligent enough to think this kind of a thing through. You also have to have enough of a motive and an emotionally, like, this is not an emotionally non-driven crime. There's got to be some kind of passion behind wanting to do some shit like this, otherwise you're not going to do it. But at the end of the day, you can look at it two ways. He threw what he had away, or he gave what he had up, right? He either burnt it or he sacrificed it. And it depends on who you are as a person, how you're gonna conclude on that. Personally, though, if it were me, I don't know that I would be. I've stood up for what I thought is right before in the past, right? Like, I have a track record for doing the right thing, air quotes, demonstrable, right? You know what I'm talking about. But that being said, I don't know that I would do the same that he did. So in that aspect, he's significantly braver than I am, I suppose. But on the whole, I don't know. I look forward to seeing how this resolves. But this is an inflection point that, if treated correctly by enough people, it doesn't have to be the right people, enough people. If enough people remember this moment and use it in a positive way, it could really be the beginning of something. We'll see.
I sure hope so. And I'm going to refrain from commenting on this any further on recording.
That's fair. That's fair. You've already disclosed a lot at the expense of the synagogue, and I appreciate that.
Increase your payments next month.
You got it, Chief. All is asked. That being said, though, we do have some sad ghoul news to cover. Now, this one is more me updating you, Charles, but very recently our good friend Speaker Emirata Pelosi was injured. She fell and broke her hip, I think in Germany.
I'm aware.
Oh.
I pushed her.
I'm sorry?
I pushed her.
Why? Why would you do that, Charles?
Because the Lord said to me, "Speak to the wind, son of man. Speak to the wind for me. Tell the wind that this is what the Lord God says. Wind come from every direction, and breathe air into these lifeless bodies. Breathe air into them, and they will fall." I called upon the wind. That was a strong gust of wind behind her. Divine intervention, if you will, and it caused her to fall. That was my doing. Mm-hmm. That's Ezekiel 37, 9 through 14.
Charles, your powers have grown. Ezekiel 37, 9 through 14. Wonderful. Thank you for the verse, Charles. That will be our verse for the day. I'll be sure to include it in the description. That being said, I did not know that your capability to channel the Most High had increased. Was that something that you developed during your time steeped in combat in the Holy Land?
I've always been able to control the weather.
Charles, I didn't know this about you when I hired you as my accountant. You're telling me that you can control the weather?
We all can. You weren't aware of this?
No, I'm a Gentile, Charles. I don't get to know these
It's like
things.
asking if a tiger has stripes, buddy. We can control the weather.
You can control the weather.
Yep, and discounts at Boscov's.
I'm sorry, at what?
Boscov's, famous Pennsylvania retailer.
I have never been to the state of Pennsylvania, Charles. I'm going to be 100% frank with you.
We all have. You weren't aware of this about us?
No. The last thing that I saw come out of the Northeast related to the tribe was the tunnel story from mid-year, and that's as far back as my histories have gone. I've been trying, but everything that happened on October 7th has sort of overshadowed tribe news recently.
No, that's okay. I don't expect you to be up on our whereabouts, just like I'm not up on the Gentiles' whereabouts. It's okay.
So I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I also feel like you do keep track of the Gentiles' whereabouts, Charles. Not you specifically, but yeah.
When it matters.
There's been so many developments in tracking technology and like facial tracking and stuff. This AI stuff is wacky for it, Charles. I'm not going to lie to you. But
yeah, body wash,
Wait, it's in the body wash?
You were saying something about AI?
Yeah, yeah. I've been reading about how they're using it to like detect faces and stuff with pretty reliable accuracy and whatnot.
Hmm.
I've also been reading about like AI defeating patterns for things. There's also so much fucking porn. It is insane. Like dead internet theory is like half correct. You just gotta call it Gooner internet theory, and that's more accurate. It's just porn.
Yeah, that's mostly what my unit's responsible for back here in the States is the influence of porn categories.
Wait, so you're always deployed technically then, huh?
You never rest, except on the Sabbath.
Good for you, Charles. Good for you.
I'm sipping on some great liquor, and I'm smoking on some Dunbar. I'm having a good time.
Did you run into any exotic tobaccos during your time in service with the IDF? I'm sure that there must have been something in one of those Georgians' pockets.
Oh yeah, yeah, lots of shisha, which is just a little bit too inconvenient for me. Opium too, great stuff. Been enjoying a little bit of that.
How do you... I understand the poppy part of it, right? The Georgian being the one to bring... Does he bring the bulb? Does he just pick it along the way as his convoy passes through Abkhazia or something? Or whatever? Some northern mountain region?
Normally, you would score the bulbs and return the following morning to harvest the latex. And then you can just roll it up into a little ball, put it in some parchment paper, and keep it in your pocket.
Okay. And then what? You just dab it with a knife and take some to the tongue or something, or?
You totally can. It's usually smoked in that part of the world, but definitely can't eat it.
So are you saying that it's hypothetically possible to have a joint laced with microscopic opium?
Yeah, it's not the most efficient way because you need to vaporize the opium, and if you're smoking weed, it's a little bit too warm. It'll destroy the active chemicals, but it's definitely possible, just inefficient.
What if that's the goal? Like, what if one of them mountain fighters just needs a little bit off the top, but he's not trying to go into the Percocet dungeon? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean if that's the goal, that'll do it. But I would say mostly it's like knife hits.
So what I'm hearing is that a mild psychostimulant in the form of like some mountain kush, and then a small painkiller to sort of to take the edge off kind of thing. Combat drug manufacturing goes crazy, dude.
Oh yeah, I've definitely got a finger or a pinky toe in that industry as well.
Speaking of combat drug production, Captagon about to go into the fucking red, dude.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
The collapse of the Syrian state means the collapse of the Captagon supply. And I don't know if you know, but even before I took the forever nap that was that 2-year coma, them Hajis was on some speed. So now you're going to have Hajis going into withdrawal over stimulants. It's about to get stupid. And like...
Yeah, that's why I've been resurrecting, the recipe for Pervitin in New Mexico.
I'm sorry, Did you say Pervitin, like Panzer chocolate? Or like, rather, not Panzer chocolate, Finnish meth rations?
Mm-hmm. It's making a comeback in 2025.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. Keep an eye out in the southwest.
Oh, I think I see what you're saying. Oh, Charles, that's not nice. You shouldn't do that.
No, you don't. It's coming back.
Related commentary. Did you see that Stalker 2 came out?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that it doesn't really have an A-life system and is not very fun to play, unfortunately?
I did.
I played a couple hours of it on Game Pass.
I'm absolutely heartbroken and will not be supporting that financially until they fix it. It's on Game Pass?
Oh yeah, dude, it's on Game Pass.
Okay, I might try it then. It's
Yeah.
incredible though. I'm surprised such a niche title got on Game Pass.
It's not that niche. Also, Microsoft's all in on the Ukraine thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, were people really playing Stalker Call of Chernobyl like that? Is Call of Chernobyl the mod, or is that the
No.
Call of Pripyat and Shadow Chernobyl in Clear Skies?
Yeah, and the mod is Anomaly, and that's just like an all-in-one mod. It throws the map of all the games together and just kind of cranks the A-Life stuff up a lot. It's weird because Anomaly is in itself a launching platform for other mod packs, primarily Escape from Pripyat and Gamma, which are both more Tarkov-style mod packs. They add more specific limbic healing functions, weapon repair to an autistic degree, like bolt maintenance, right? It's actually very fun. I really enjoyed it. I think that's pretty much it. All the ghoul updates have been addressed and released. I think we've sort of covered the gamut on ghouls. We've covered state ghouls. We've covered ghouls of the people. We've covered ghoul slayers and their potential ghoul relations. And we've covered the ghoulish front that is the Middle East. I think we're all up. Appreciate you giving me this time.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime.